ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is second video on Sadhana Panchakam of Adi Shankaracharya. This video starts with verse number 3. वाक्यार्थश्च विचर्यताम् श्रुतिशिरः पक्षः समाश्रियताम् दुस्तर्का अस्तु वीर्यमताम् श्रुतिमतस्त की अनुसंधन्यताम् ब्रह्मैवास्मि विभावैवता महर्गर्वः प्रीतज्यताम् देहेऽहमति तृज्यत बुद्ध जनै वदः प्रीतज्यताम्. This is an exposition on manana and nididhyasana to be practiced by the sadhaka till he gets over the idea of I am the body and gets fixed in Brahmakara vritti, the firm conviction I am Brahma. Explanation of the Sruta in parts. A. Vakyarthascha vicharyatam. Let the implied meaning of the great sentences be reflected upon. After Sarvana, the next stage is Manana, that is, pondering on the impact of the Mahavakyas. The sadhaka should reflect over the meaning of the dictum he has heard from the Guru. During this process of ratiocination, several doubts may arise in his mind because he has only intellectually grasped the meaning. The knowledge obtained is only indirect and not direct, till direct knowledge of the Atma Brahma identity, which is the import of the Mahavakyas, draws on him, he will be haunted by various doubts. The scriptures and the Guru's further personal instructions should be strictly adhered to in the process of ratiocination. Arguments in favor of the implied meaning of the dicta alone should be resorted to. The disciple should not enter into vain arguments or into those which are not traditionally accepted by the wise and the scriptures. B. Shruti Siraha Prakashaha Samasariyatam. Let him resort to the Upanishads completely. Hereafter, the sannyasin should resort to the Upanishads alone. All his thoughts should be centered round them. From the time of rising from the bed till he goes to bed again at night, his mind should be engaged in reflection. This would certainly dispel all his doubts. He should not depend now on those texts in the Vedas dealing with karma and upasana, which have to be treated as subordinate or subservient to the Mahavakyas. All those portions of the Shruti have served their purpose as far as this aspirant is concerned and have therefore to be set aside. C. Drashtakarth Suviramatiyat. Let him completely desist from all unnecessary argumentation. Mere dialectic disputation and scholastic discussions should be avoided by the aspirant. He should also refrain from entering into discussions with those belonging to Other philosophical schools for the involve the risk of his faith being shaken violently. D. Sriruti Mastriyako Nusrandhiyatam. Let him always engage in the investigation and inquiry on the lines of the arguments of the Sruti. The Shruti is interested only in the Atma Brahma identity, which fact is established through the Satyatat Langas. The sixth test for ascertaining the meaning of scriptural text. They are the Upakarma, Upasmahara, introduction and conclusion. Upsamahara, introduction and conclusion. Abhyasa, repetition of the topic at intervals. Apurvata, originality in the teaching. Phala, result achieved from it. Arthvada, eulogy, and Upapatti, demonstration through reasoning. It is an accepted principle that the intended meaning of a scriptural text should satisfy one or more of these six texts. Here, in the case of the Mahavakyas, they satisfy all the six tests, as may be seen from the sixth chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad. E. Brahma Vaisami Vibhavayatam Ahar Ahaha. Let him always entertain the bhavana, the inner feeling, I am Brahma. Having cleared all doubts and come to the unshakable conclusion on the implied meaning of the Upanishadic propositions, the sannyasin is instructed to keep the consciousness I am Brahma uninterruptedly, like the continuous flow of oil from one vessel to another. The eye gradually drops off, it merges in Brahma. This is called Badha Sambandhi Karana in the Vedantic parlance. The aspirant has, through the process of Anvaya and Vyaktireka, synthesis and analysis, discriminated the Atma and not Atma in the earlier stages of his sadhana, and has, through the Neti, not this doctrine given in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, eliminated everything in the Samashti, the universal or macrocosm, including its final constituents of the five subtle elements, beginning from earth and ending with ether, and everything in the Vesti, the individual or microcosm, beginning from the gross body up to the intellect, and also the ego with the organs, pranas, and the mind in between. After this elimination, he is face to face with the unmanifested Isvara in the macrocosm, which is the prajna, the individual in the causal or deep sleep state in the microcosm. Really, there is no distinction between the microcosm and macrocosm, because the latter is inclusive of the former, without allowing him to slip into the state of Sunyata, complete non-existence of nihilists. The Mahavakyas save him and take him to the final state of Brahmic consciousness. F. Garvaha Prityaj Yatam. Let the sannyasin renounce the feeling of pride and arrogance. Let him not have the feelings of superiority complex, for it is sure to drag him down from the spiritual heights to which he has risen through Brahma Bhavana. The thought, I am spiritually advanced, others are still worldly, should never rise in him, because such thoughts are contrary to facts from the viewpoint of the Absolute to which he is moving in the final state described by the mantra Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. Everything here is verily Brahma, the pure undivided consciousness. Where is the justification for the feelings of I, you, or he? In the absence of these, how can there be pride and haughtiness? To reach this highest state, the Acharya asks the Sadhaka to practice consciously absence of pride. G. Dehe ahmatir ujjahataran. Let the feeling I am the body be given up. The root cause of sufferings is the feeling I am this body. This idea is so deep rooted as a result of the mutual superimposition of the characteristics of the body on the Atma and those of the Atma on the body. All spiritual practices are aimed at the removal of this false superimposition, but this cannot be done so easily as it is the effect of beginningless Ajnana, and it will die only when the Ajnana is destroyed. Ajnana is destroyed only through Sanyog Jnana, the knowledge of Aham Brahmasmi. When this knowledge takes firm root in the sadhaka, the Ajnana in the form of I am the body will disappear. H. Buddha Jnanavarvadaha Paritaya Jayatam. Let him completely give up arguments with the learned. When the sadhaka thus progresses in the spiritual path, he realizes the real cause of human suffering in this world. He himself, as a result of his sadhana, begins to have glimpses of the reality which give him in the supreme peace. He now wants to share this with others, and with this good intention, he starts preaching yoga and Vedanta. In the course of this work done with the best of intentions, he may, without himself knowing it, entangle himself in fruitless arguments with the learned and the wise. Reality absolute is beyond Sat, Asat and Sadasat. Existence, non-existence, and existence come non-existence. It is neither non-dual nor dual, not a combination of both. At the same time, being immanent, it includes all these and yet remains transcending all. It is beyond all words and thoughts. Hence, when one tries to explain it to others, he has necessarily to come down from the level of absolute reality to the realm of relative reality or the not Atman. In the realm of not Atman, there can be no end to arguments, for all arguments depend on the ever changing intellect. Therefore, the sadhaka, even though he has reached a high stage in spiritual evolution, is warned not to enter into arguments with the learned. Verse number 4. Aksudvyadhischa chikitsayatam pratidinam bhiksosdham bhujyatam swadannam netu yachyatam vidhivashat prapten santusyatam sitoshnadi vihasyatam netu vyartha vakyam samuchayaryata modasi अन्य भी तपस्यताम जन कृपा निष्ठो मृत्यु सज्जताम. The instruction in this verse are directed toward the sadhaka who is now in an advanced stage as to how he should lead the rest of his life in the present body. Now, Meaning and explanation in parts. A. Akshud Vyadhischa Chikitsa Yattam. Let the disease of hunger be treated. As the sadhaka ascends to the higher rungs of the ladder of spiritual practice, the chances of his downfall are greater and greater, and hence this important warning is given by the Acharya. Though during the early stages of his sadhana he had practiced control of all the senses and the mind, there may arise in him the tendency to slowly relax, especially in the case of the palate, the sense of taste. The sannyasin is therefore admonished to consider hunger as a disease, as all diseases of the body, mind are treated with proper medicines. The sadhaka should treat this disease of hunger also with the medicine of food and drink. It should never be left untreated, because without a healthy body, the sadhana cannot be completed and the final goal reached. The medicine for the disease of hunger is a nourishing diet. Both overeating and starving are discouraged, and the via media, the golden mean, is prescribed. Yoga is harmony. Extremes are to be avoided cautiously. B part. Pratidinam bhiksha aushadham bhujyatam. Let the monk take the medicine of alms daily. Unlike other diseases, the disease of hunger is a daily recurring one, and hence treatment also should be given daily. What is the medicine for this disease prescribed by the Acharya for the sannyasin? It is bhiksha, food received as alms. No one takes an overdose of medicine, but takes only the minimum just sufficient to cure the disease. Similarly, the sannyasin is enjoined to take only the absolute minimum food to keep the body and soul together in a healthy condition, healthy enough to complete the sadhana in this life itself. C part. Swadvannam natu yachyatam. Let him not beg for delicious disease. Again, applying the analogy of the treatment of disease, no patient can, for obvious reasons, demand from the doctor sweet medicine. Even so, the sannyasin is prohibited from demanding the delicious articles of food from the householder whom he approaches for appeasing his hunger, for it is considered to be a sinful act, because such demand will cause inconvenience to those charitably minded grihasthas who give alms to them. The dispassion cultivated with great effort by the sadhaka will give way to sense indulgence if he is not extremely careful in this matter. D. Vidhivashat praptena santostayam. Let him be completely satisfied with what he gets as a result of his prarabdha karmas. This instruction clarifies the mental attitude the sannyasin should have when he gets food to eat, and when he gets something to drink or some old and torn garment to cover his nakedness. He should have complete satisfaction. He should not entertain a feeling of want or insufficiency about the quality and quantity of the articles received by him. He should not murmur or curse his fate which has brought him those articles. A feeling of complete satiety must prevail in him. Even during his early sadhana period, he had been cultivating pratyahara, withdrawal of the mind from sense objects, with great effort and his own will. Because of the discriminative knowledge that all sense pleasures are only worms of pain, he has subsequently renounced the world and taken to the fourth order of sannyasa and plunged himself into manana and nididhyasana on the import of the Mahavakyas into which he has been initiated by his preceptor. Under these conditions, there should be no occasion for any dissatisfaction on account of the presence or absence of any sense object. None of the objects in the three worlds should be able to disturb his mind either through its presence or absence. There is the risk of a sleeping down of the sadhaka till the very last stage with the attainment of direct realization of the Atma Brahma because the pull of the senses by and towards their objects coupled with the attraction of the objects by the senses is too strong for ordinary sadhakas. Hence it is that the Acharya has introduced this warning even at this advanced stage of the sadhaka's march. E. Sitos, Sitos Nadi Visehatam. Let him endure calmly the pairs of opposites like heat and cold, pain and pleasure, merit and sin, love and hate, Devic and Asuric qualities, good and bad, knowledge and ignorance, etc. are pairs of opposites which are to be transcended by the sadhaka. He has already renounced what is considered as bad, sinful, asuric, etc. Now, in the advanced stage, the sadhaka is exhorted to avoid their opposites also, like the good, the meritorious, the Daivik, etc. Because the Atma, the attainment of which is the final goal of life, is that which transcends all kinds of relations and all pairs of opposites. The sadhaka should free himself even from what is generally considered as good in this world. F part. Na tu viratha vakyam samuchcharyatam. Let him not speak unnecessary words. When all the other organs are controlled and prevented from contact with their respective objects, the organ of speech is found in the case of many sadhaka to take the upper hand and engage itself too much in activity on the pretext of loka sangraha or uplift of humanity. In his over anxiety to share his knowledge with others, the sannyasin with the best of intentions starts preaching to his juniors first and gradually reaches the public at large when he is unknowingly dragged into unnecessary and unpleasant controversies with others. He easily gets himself entangled in them, which fact he himself comes to realize only too late. Therefore, the sadhaka is instructed to speak only when it is unavoidable. Further, too much of speaking will entail waste of energy which he has conserved with great effort by control of mind, organs, etc. during the early stages of his spiritual practice. G. Audasinyam Abhipasyatam. Let him desire perfect indifference to all worldly affairs. The sadhaka who has embraced the order of sannyasa, who has been initiated into the Mahavakyas and who is engaged whole time in reflection and profound meditation on their import is advised to keep aloof from all worldly matters to avoid destruction. He is asked to keep an attitude of indifference, not the indifference of the ignorant and selfish people towards the suffering humanity, but the highest indifference of the wise which transcends all pairs of opposites. He is not expected at this stage of the sadhana to mix with worldly minded people, But if circumstances place him among them, he is advised to play the part of a witness unaffected by whatever happens around him. The Atma is described in the scriptures as the supreme witness in the sense that it is free from all actions and relationships and not in the ordinary sense of the term which one who sees with the physical eyes. The Upanishad, in trying to explain the nature of the witness, says it the Atman sees and yet sees not, being non-dual, homogeneous, without modification, and the eternal consciousness. It is described by the scriptures in the above enigmatic expression that it sees and yet sees not. The attitude of the Sadhaka should be in harmony with his true nature, which is the nature of the Atma. H. Jnana Kripa Nesthaturyam Utsriyatam. Let him give up completely both the feelings of kindness and harshness towards others. Though this advice is included in stanza number 4 E part, special mention is made of it again because of its great importance and of the possibility of even the wise being dragged down without their knowledge if they are not extremely cautious. It is human nature to entertain feelings of kindness or cruelty or an unsympathetic attitude towards other creatures. While unkindness, cruelty, etc. are universally accepted as undesirable traits and therefore discouraged, kindness is generally considered as a great virtue which all should try to cultivate. The universal brotherhood of man is an offshoot of this virtue. In the case of the advanced sadhaka, even this may act as a cause of his downfall from the great heights to which he has risen through long and protracted spiritual sadhana. This is illustrated in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the life of Bharta, a very highly evolved soul who, out of compassion towards a newborn deer which had lost its mother and which was about to be washed away by the current in the river, took it to his ashram and reared it. This compassion slowly developed into love, then into affection, and thereafter into great attachment. So much so, the last thought at the time of his death was about the young deer. This brought him the body of a deer in his next birth. Hence, to avoid such downfalls, the sadhaka is advised not to entertain both the feelings of kindness and harshness, but to stick on to an attitude of supreme indifference which transcends all pairs of opposites. Verse number 5. एकांते सुखमास्त्याम परतरे चेतः समाधियताम पूर्णात्मा सोमिक्षयताम जगत जगत इदम तद्बाधितम दृश्यताम प्राकर्म प्रविलत्याम चितिबल्लानुतुम त्रयैशल्यताम प्रारब्धम तिव्यः भुज्यतामथ परब्रह्म आत्मना सुथियताम. The fifth verse is more or less a description of a liberated sage, a Jivan Mukta, who passes on to the state of Videha Mukti finally. Explanation by parts. A. Ekante Sukham Asyatam. Let him rest comfortably in seclusion. The monk aiming at the one non-dual Atma Brahma is to avoid all company and remain alone. That stage in which he was asked to resort to company of the wise is now transcended, and in the Present stage, the sannyasin who is now says is counseled to keep aloof and remain in complete seclusion so that he can keep his mind fixed on the import of the Mahavakyas. Seclusion usually means absence of another person nearby. Life in caves and forest ashrams is generally considered as secluded life. There is, however, a higher meaning which is applicable to the sage in meditation. To him, seclusion is to keep his consciousness free of all duality. In other words, when his consciousness is fixed in the one non-dual Atma, he is said to be in seclusion. This has to be practiced by the seeker, and physical seclusion will to some extent be helpful to attain the higher seclusion. B. Pratatre Chetaha Samadhiyatam. Let his mind completely merge in the Supreme Atma in Samadhi. When the instruction in the just preceding section verse 5 a part is practiced uninterruptedly for a long period, that is when the mind remains fixed in the consciousness of the Atma sufficiently long, the state of samadhi or merging of the mind in the Atmic consciousness results. The Triputi, that is the triad of meditator, meditation, and the object of meditation, all the three merge into the one Atmic consciousness. The subject object difference no longer exists. The object becomes one with the subject alone remains, and therefore it loses its subjectivity also. The sadhaka is no more a sadhaka, he is a siddha, a jivan mukta, or a liberated sage. C part Purnatma Susamika Satyam. Let him now experience in full the infinite Atma. The sage has now direct experience of the Atma, which is Purna, that is infinite. When it is said that the Jivan Mukta sage experiences the infinite Atma, it means that he himself has become the Atma, for the infinite alone can experience the infinite. As long as one is finite, one can never experience the infinite. The Upanishads declare that the knower of Brahma becomes Brahma itself. This is further explained in the statement, remaining as Brahma, he attains a Brahma, which shows that there is no becoming but only being. He realized that all along he had been the Atma itself, and that all bondage and miseries were only mere appearances due to false ajnana, ignorance. D part Jagdaditam tad badhitam drishyatam. Let him witness the disappearance of his universe in the Atam Brahma. With the direct realization of the import of the Mahavakyas, which is Atma Brahma identity, the sage finds himself remaining as the one non-dual unmolded consciousness, the whole phenomenon merging as it were in the noumenon. To him there is nothing other than Brahma, the self of this universe. The universe distinct from Brahma is not in the Mahavakya Tattvam Ashi, that which is represented by the term Tavam, which the Atma has become one with that which is signified by the term Tat, which is Brahma. There is no Tvam different from Tat and no Tat separate from Tvam. All differences have merged into the non-dual reality. Similarly is the case with the other Mahavakya, Aham Brahmasmi. The Aham becomes one with Brahma. In Prajanam Brahma, Prajanam dissolves in Brahma. In Ayam Atma Brahma, Ayam Atma becomes one with Brahma. Thus the sage of realization experiences the highest absolute reality, the non-dual Atma Brahma consciousness. E part Prakarna Pravilapatyam. Let him destroy the sanchita karmas. When the sage has merged himself in the birthless, deathless, eternal, non-dual Atma, all his sanchita karmas, that is, those karmas accumulated in hundreds of crores of past lives, are burnt to ashes like roasted seeds which have lost the capacity of germination. The past sanskaras and vasanas of this sage, which are burnt in the fire of samyang jnana, Brahma knowledge, can no more create any new body for him. F part Chitibala Neopatriyaha Salisyatam, with the strength of the consciousness of the Atma, let him stop further accumulation of Agami karmas. A Jivan Mukta liberated says does not have the ego as it has merged in the Atma. He is unattached and homogeneous like the vast sky. Hence there is no feeling of doership and enjoyership in him. In the absence of these two feelings, the fruits of the karmas done by his body hereafter cannot attach themselves to him and become the cause of either merits or demerits. A Jivan Mukta, the scriptures state, is absolutely free and is not bound even by scriptural injunctions. He moves about freely in all the worlds. He neither accepts anything nor rejects anything. His mind is now one with the Atman. He does not entertain any desire for objects, nor does he hate them. He is neither afraid of anyone, nor is anyone afraid of him. Through this supreme Brahma knowledge, all his present karmas are dried up and they do not therefore cause further rebirth, even as a fried seed does not germinate. Z part prarabdham tviyaha bhujyatam, let him exhaust his prarabdha karmas through actual experience of their results. Here, when the Sanchita and Agami karmas are destroyed, what remains are his prarabdha karmas, those karmas which have brought about the present body to the says. This body will continue as long as the fruits of those karmas remains and falls when they are completely spent up through experience. Therefore, the Jivan Mukta is said to experience the prarabdha karmas, but this is an answer to the question of the ignorant who sees the body of the Jivan Mukta also moving and acting like others. They ask if the efforts of ignorance are destroyed with their root by Samyang Jnana, Brahma knowledge, then how does the body live? It is to convince such ignorant people who entertain doubt of this kind that the scriptures posit prarabdha in the self-realized says the Acharya in his book Viveka Chudamani. The fact is that with the dawn of Brahma knowledge and the direct realization of the Atma Brahma, all the three kinds of karma, which Sanchita, Agami and Prarabdha, are completely annihilated. There is only the non-dual Brahma, the pure infinite awareness without beginning or end, immediate and transcendent. There is absolutely no duality whatsoever in it. H. Atha Brahmatana Satyatam. Thereafter, let him firmly rest in the supreme transcendental Brahma Atma. The sage finally rests in his own Sat Chit Ananda Savrupa. In the non-dual Brahma itself, he is now a Videha Mukta, a liberated one without a body. Though in others' view, he appears to possess a body. Let him, there is no body, no world, nothing except Brahma. If he sees the world, he sees it as Brahma and not as anything different from it. The state of a Jivan Mukta itself defies description. Then what to say about the state of a Videha Mukta? He is the infinite Brahma itself. As Brahma is beyond speech and thought, his state is also indescribable by human language, unthinkable by the human mind, and ununderstandable by the human intellect in the usual sense of these terms. But it is known and understood through direct experience, it being nearer than one's own body. We are actually experiencing it every day, nay, every moment, but we are not conscious of it because of ignorance and of the resultant innumerable desire in the mind. We are it, and alone it alone is. The closing verses describes in the traditional manner the phala or the fruit that accrues one who studies these verses. It says that he who studies these 5 verses and reflects over their import daily in his mind, which is purified and made steady, freeing it from all kinds of distractions, and who practices the sadhana as lays down in these verses, will be speedily saved from the burning heat of great blazing forest fire of this cycle of transmigration through the grace of Atma. Thus, starting from the study of scriptures, which is the first rung in the spiritual ladder, the sadhaka is instructed to ascend gradually step by step till he finds himself firmly fixed in the Supreme Brahma. Instead of ascending from the lower to the immediate next higher rung of a ladder, if a man leaves off one or more steps and tries to jump to the higher rungs, he would naturally fall and break his legs. Even so, attempt to short circuit the prescribed process is the cause of failure of many an aspirant in the spiritual path. Performance of one's duties without desire for fruits, worship of God through them, renunciation of desires, expiation of sins, reflecting over the defects in sense pleasures, a firm resolve to attain liberation, and leaving one's own home are the next 7 steps in the first stage. In the next stage, company of the wise, surrender to God, cultivation of Sat Sampat, complete renunciation of karmas, approaching the preceptor, service at his feet, prayer for initiation, and getting initiated into the Mahavakyas are prescribed for the sadhaka. Then comes the third stage where he is instructed to reflect over the import of Mahavakyas, to completely depend on the Upanishads, to avoid all arguments against the spirit of the scriptures, to follow the line of arguments prescribed in them, to maintain continuously the thought I am Brahma, to renounce pride and the idea of I am the body, and to avoid all unnecessary argumentation and dialectical discussion with the learned and the wise. The fourth verse, in describing the next stage, exhorts the monk to consider hunger as a disease, to treat it with the medicine of food received through begging, to renounce desire for delicious dishes, to remain satisfied with what he gets, to his prarabdha karmas, to lead his life enduring the pairs of opposites like heat and cold, to avoid all unnecessary talks, to maintain an indifferent attitude worldly matters, and to avoid hatred as well as feeling of compassion towards others. The last and the fifth stage is where the sadhaka resorts to complete seclusion and fixes his mind in samadhi on the Supreme Atma. He now directly experiences the infinite Atma Brahma and does not see the world different from it. He is freed from all 3 kinds of karmas and finally rest in the Atma Brahma, the one stupendous, supreme, non-dual reality. All questions about the I, world and God dissolve once for all. Here this video is completed. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar my dear friend. Thank you.